And just as a heads up, we have more spoilers for the day. We were and are still going to give away something to a viewer here. A really awesome prize, some Pipit sleeves. Infamous Neo, uh, now that you're not casting, if you'd like to get that set up and give people a
Alrighty.
keyword, please and thank you. And that'll be for a viewer, just for watching with that. And we are back here. Our caster's not reading chat. Seems like they don't interact with us. Well, I read that. Here we are in the first game of the match. CoolGer versus Love. A Stormcloud on the board. Polka with Ruby Sapphire versus Love with Blood Wild. That's a strong looking hand here. Do we have a card blocker up for them, or are they not minding the lack of card guard?
I think Hecky's taking care of some of the things in the background there, Vincent.
Yeah, no worries, no worries.
Posted
So
that
we
keyword in chat. The keyword is sleeves, please. Copy and paste what I have written for best results.
Okay, 1 on K doesn't have a blocker and has a delay. Awesome. So Pact of Pain down on the board. CoolGer laying down that Cerulean Mentalist, not popping the Stormcloud, doesn't find another shard. And here we see Running Deer activating a little bit of his charge power to get that health gain. Wrathwood Mastermoss hitting the board. Pact of Life gaining some health just from the charge being gained, from the resource being played. This is certainly interesting to see Blood Wild in this manner. I guess this is the two-packed deck of lore coming back.
Two-packed, can't make it a comeback. You thought he was dead, but he's actually still around.
That's the way it goes. Without that fourth resource, might be difficult for CoolGer to effectively use those cards in his hand. Interestingly, uses Crackling Bolt on that Wrathwood Mastermoss, gains that charge, makes the Blaze Elemental and swings. Looks like Love will block with the Mastermoss here to prevent any damage from coming through. The Mossling will come back onto the board as a 2/2. With one resource still open, will we see a burn from CoolGer? No, he pops the Stormcloud, gets a Bitty Bolt and a Splashy for his 2 charges worth.
We do see gain another few points of health here from the Pact of Pain shard play. Another Mastermoss. Looks like we're not going to see an attack here, though, which makes sense. Now, CoolGer going for the draw here could be that he's missing his shard drop. He is already down a shard compared to his opponent here. Do see a tunnel, though. And with no other attack, including no attack with the Bitty Bolt here, looks like he may be going to play a little bit more defensive this time around.
Yeah. Still a strong set of cards we see in Love's hand, up to 31 health, which kind of pulls him out of some sort of like danger range, even if you know your opponent is going to be playing Gore Feast, which is the likely deck style that he's facing down here, as his opponent is Sapphire Ruby. The Pact of Pain sitting next to the Pact of Life. The combo does begin, drawing cards for 2 health and regaining that health by playing shards.
One of the other fun things about this particular deck, when you're playing against Gorefeast, you can never be 100% sure which tunneler they have there. Could be that they're looking at your hand right now and they already know everything you have.
That's true. We do see the Royal Falconer coming out from CoolGer as he hits that 4th resource. Now, with the double Ruby Threshold online and those Falcons and the Bitty Bolt in the sky, pretty much every moment here has to at least be a little bit of fear for Love, because it could be that Gorefeast swings out and starts putting through massive damage, even if it doesn't kill him in one turn, which is the usual Gorefeast desire. It is still very dangerous. We see Zentoth's Inquisitor coming out. this 4 cost 3/1 Venom will reduce the cost of one of CoolGer's troops by the same amount equal to its own attack. And that
Attack.
means that it essentially cuts off, I would say, I would say probably like 60 or 70% of Gore Feast's damage here on a swing. Like it really cripples those Royal Falcons, even if Gore Feast was played now.
Right. He can still attack and have the Gore Feast and still get the buffs on the Falcons. But yeah, it definitely reduces the overall power by a significant amount there. It's a
And
good
like
play.
you said, it was Subterranean Spy underground, so everything in Love's hand is known by CoolGer. Not that much of it actually gives him an advantage, but Love no longer able to tunnel Monsoon, for example, and try to be secretive about it.
So CoolGer at 10 with no block on the Falconer last turn, still trying to set up a turn where he can get a good attack in with a Gore Feast. We don't see a Gore Feast here though. We just see a swing by two of the troops, the Spy and the Biddy Bolt.
Still leaves behind plenty of troops here for the defense. Looks like Love is happily going to trade the baby Mossling for the Subterranean Spy here. Take two. Not like his health is in much danger, but we do see another Royal Falcon here. Now, because that Gore Feast gives you two swings of just like absolutely dominant Rage 1 attacks, this could have been a lot more frightening had Love not found a second Xentos Inquisitor.
Yeah, I agree. Just from looking at, I mean, even with the Inquisitor though, it's still quite a lot of damage if he does have the Gore Feast. If I'm counting it right, I think it's somewhere around 17 damage in the air from a Gore swing attack. It's really pretty brutal here with all these flying troops. But fortunately, Love with plenty of health to work with should be okay at least for this next turn.
Still able to swing in here with that Master Moss against a huge board.
Yeah, take another hit. Seems good for CoolGer here. Try to maintain as many troops in play as you can for at least this next turn. CoolGer playing a shard seems likely. Probably just drew that one off the top. If he doesn't have the Gore Feast here, then he probably would just swing with the Biddy Bolt.
Yeah, it's interesting because without seeing the Gore Feast played, right? Yeah, I have to imagine he's doing math right now. Like he's doing the okay, so the first swing with just the Falcons would deal this much, right?
Right, right,
And unfortunately, with the Royal Falconers at -1, they can never swing for an advantage here.
right.
Yeah,
Because
so you
the
see the
Zentots
Gore
Inquisitors
Feast.
would be able to block on the first swing. Do
Yeah,
nothing.
and because they would go from -1 to 0. So here we see he's gonna do the first swing. Likely swings at the very least with the. Maybe he does swing with the Falconers. Maybe just Alpha's the first swing. Because to lose the Mentalist, he would have to trade with one of the Inquisitors. That means one
Right.
of the Falcons gets through. Yeah, so here we go. This is the first swing with a potential 9 damage coming through, which isn't a whole lot. The Zentoth Inquisitors get in front of the Falcons, and there's a time ripple actually. That's the last of CoolGer's resources, knocks one of the Inquisitors back to hand. Now, there are some cards being drawn from all that damage being dealt by the Mentalist, which is fantastic in this situation for CoolGer. Even if he doesn't finish with another Alpha here, which I don't think is even lethal, is it? 4, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yeah, it's not well, no, it is lethal. It's technically lethal to swing with everything Is it lethal with the block?
I
Uh,
think
blocks
it's
four damage if he blocks the highest source of damage, and then he takes one, 3, 6, 9. Yeah, no, I think Alpha's lethal. Lethal? 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. No, it's only 15.
I think he's going to be a little bit short here.
Yeah, it's 15. Why am I bad? Why am I bad at this game?
Well, because having the extra attack from the Falconer pumps up the other Falcons, makes it a little bit more complicated to ferret out. So
Door
CoolGer
prizes
here.
are being sent out right now, guys, for people who are asking about them. The sleeves have not been drawn yet, but Infamous Neo will pull those probably shortly and let us know who to send those sleeves to and let the chat know. So we see a swing with just those Falcons and the Royal Falconer to get that extra point of attack. Also probably to take the Zentos Inquisitor off the board. Uh, I mean, it does go back to hand and increase its cost, but it's not the unoptimal situation. Now, CoolGer still on 5 health is in the has that spot where any turn could be his last, but Love in a far worse board position than he was before needs to be able to answer a couple of those Falcons, I feel.
Now what? Now the one that I definitely understand holding back an extra blocker, but do you think he was just being extra careful here and holding back 2 blockers in case Love had 2 murders there?
Well, it's hard to tell because he knows
He knows.
every card. He knows every card but one Zentos Inquisitor that's in Love's hand right now.
Yeah. No, that's true. He knows
Either through
every.
seeing it through the Subterranean Spy or putting those cards back into his hand. Um,
No, that's true. Yeah, he knew
yeah.
every other one except for the one. So. Yeah, just being.
So he says good game. They will go to the reserves phase now.
For the
All
people
right.
who are asking in the chat there, if you have any question about any kind of judge problems, just message the judges in game there.
And real quick, while we have this break between rounds, Mr. Infamous Neo, if you would like to pull a winner for those pivot sleeves, courtesy of Sir Grum, thank you very much for donating those to make this an even better event than it is. And a huge shout out to the over 350 people watching the FiveShards channel right now. You are all awesome people.
And the winner is Prototype Zero. That has been typed into
Prototype
chat.
Zero. Just say something in chat real quick, Prototype Zero. I believe. I mean, we'll need either your in-game name or. Well, no, wait, we can send it on Twitch. Yeah. Never mind. I've got the code here.
Yeah, I think Prototype said this was his first constructed tournament, so congrats. Good thing that you came out today. And if anybody who is interested in dropping, go ahead and hit the link there for the drop that we're putting in the chat now for you. All right, looks like we are getting ready to start the next game here. Just noticed here that One On is currently 2-0 in the cup here with the old 2-pack.
Well, it's certainly not the old 2-pack. There is some new 2-pack knowledge in here. He's put up the card guard here, which is interesting. I'm happy to see it. It's a little bit too low. He is on that 5-minute delay, so he should be fine either way.
Back
But
that in and add the card guard.
yeah, so we will avoid talking about the cards in his hand as if we can see them. But
Well, he's on a 5-minute delay as well.
yeah, he is on that 5-minute delay.
It's
Okay, he says he takes it off. Ignore the card blocker. I need to enlarge it. Yeah, you just need to move it on the screen when on. But it's okay. Usually on a 5-minute delay, you're more than okay. Also, most of the Hex community is cool enough not to be total D-bags. So we do see the blood shard come down. Even though I just said we weren't going to talk about his cards, he said it's okay, so we are going to. I just want to reiterate before somebody's like, "Damn, Penta, you so mean." CoolGer lays down that ruby shard. This is, I mean, I've played me some 2-packed in my day. Let me tell you what. I would love for every one of my opening hands to start with double wild, double blood shards in there, so that I could just do whatever I wanted.
Hitting all those dual shards is so important. Having 4 shards is definitely sweet.
Yeah, and speaking of important, also interesting, that is a really salty card there that he keeps hovering over. Yeah, that is certainly interesting. Showing his opponent that he has that Arborian Rootfather, which had Spell Shield and a Blood Major Gem. If I had to guess, it's the -8 attack gem, probably coming in instead of the... Well, it's hard to tell because the Zentoth Inquisitors had negative attack, and he could take those out between rounds.
But against this opponent, that makes the most sense. That it's probably the Shrink Gem. Gorefeast not typically known for their hard removal.
Here we see the burn. Comes out to take sight of sun out. He looked at the sun for a little too long and his eyes got burned. In response, CoolGer putting down the most terrifying Sapphire 2-drop in the game, the Cerulean Mirror Knight. Non-alternate art version. The alternate art version, of course, being far more scary. We do see that the Pact of Life is picked up, and now it's a little bit of an interesting choice here. Also, probably Threshold Regret. Had he played a Wild Shard last turn, which wouldn't have changed anything, he would now be able to play the Pact of Life pre-combat, or pre-Shard to gain the health. But instead chooses just to put down the absolutely terrifying Vampire King, which is probably just fine. CoolGer is going to draw a card here, go up to 5 cards in hand, which I would say is pretty scary, and lay down the Royal Falconer. Now, this is interesting because those are all going to get inspired. All 3 of those troops are going to get inspired by the Cerulean Mirror Knight, but I'm not actually sure that bothers Love all that much.
Right, looking at that other card that's still in his hand there.
Also interesting. Oh, he's just going to play the Blaze Elemental for the card. Not even using... Yeah, like, he couldn't swing in there. He was exhausted out of resources, so he didn't even represent a burn or something. Had he played that Blaze Elemental pre-combat and swung, maybe could have tricked the Vampire King into not swinging.
Looks like Love considering an attack here with the Vampire King. He could potentially end up trading it off there. He does decide that he's going to go ahead and attack in. If CoolGer does block here, he'll end up giving 2 card draws and get rid of the Vampire King. But from what we see in his hand there, if he had waited another turn, he would actually be able to revert those troops. Doesn't look like it's going to matter, though. CoolGer going to take the... Oh, he's actually going to give up. He does hit on the troop here. And
gets the Subterranean Spy. Actually weird here, in that I feel like I would prefer a Vampire. Yeah, that was rough. Because Love would probably rather... Not only would he probably rather have the Vampire, but now he's played the Shard. Right. So if he plays the Pact, it's the Pact of Shame. And that's by far the worst Pact. The door prizes have been done, but there is more stuff to win if you hang around in the chat for the rest of the day. I don't have a list set up for the door prizes. Our regular way for doing the door prizes and showing them on screen is not available right now, but those prizes are all sent out. So if you haven't received prizes yet, you're not there, and I will announce them between rounds if somebody reminds me.
Now, for some of our players who maybe haven't been playing and seeing Filkape as much, it does revert all of the troops that are in play at the end of your turn. So that means that all of the inspiration buffs from the Mirror Knight there have gone away from the troops that are over on CoolGer's side of the board. But the Falconers do actually still keep their 2 power because that's a permanent effect that they just have the attack of the Royal Falconer as well. And if CoolGer does happen to play another troop, it would temporarily gain the buff for his turn, but then it would go away again at the end of Love's turn.
All right, so we see another shard draw. Things getting a little bit dicey here for Love. Opponent building up cards, noticeably having Reese Underground now. Or Excavation Hulk, but very, very, very likely Reese.
Probably Reese, yeah.
Door prizes, since people keep asking, went to Ginny, Solterra Luna, Xenavir, Nova Blue, Metronomy, Arcanist, CoolGer, Elysian, Phoenix, and Crowan.
So attacking with the Filkape here means that CoolGer does have the option to block off, assuming that Love doesn't have anything. CoolGer has the option to block off and kill the Filkape. This is kind of important because if Filkape stays in play, then the Reese would revert. But if the Filkape actually is killed, which looks like that's what's going to happen here, then the Reese actually gets to keep his ability.
Yeah. I mean, a strong force in trade there, probably looking to hit a troop with the Vampire King, like very desperately wanting to hit a troop with the Vampire King.
Yeah, Love does end up missing, just hits the shard there. So now we have the Reese that has, in fact, come out from underground. It does get the Inspire from the Cerulean Mirror Knight.
It's true. That was a 1-to-1 trade. Trading your Royal Falconer and both Falcons for one troop is still a 1-for-1.
You see CoolGer wants to draw a lot more cards, plays a Mentalist.
Scary stuff. Gets a shield bot off of Reese. Not the end of the world. Vampire King will get to swing through one more time by the looks of it. All of these shards coming out as health, which is fairly nice.
Yeah, CoolGer with the better board, but Love with plenty of health to work with here. And also the Zentos Inquisitor now to go and shrink down one of the troops. Gonna shrink down that Reese. So CoolGer really needs to get some kind of way to deal with the Vampire King. It's still, even though he has Reese and he's able to create a new robot each turn, it's possible he could get a flight robot, but he really needs to get some kind of way to deal with that Vampire King.
Possible, but it's like 3 in 34 or 3 in 36, something like that. It's like a very low chance. Swinging here with the shield bot, if it gets through, it'll draw a card. If it dies, it'll draw a card and put +2 defense onto something. So choosing to go with that. What Love really needs now is a way to draw cards. Like, just absolutely needs a way to draw cards. Although, I can't imagine that at this particular moment, a Filkape would be that bad either.
Yeah, Filkape would be pretty good to revert all these things as well. See the Buccaneer putting the Vampire King back in hand. Reasonable temporary measure to regain some time here. We see Love with another shard, gaining more health, just gaining lots and lots of help from that Pact of Life there.
Well, and from his charge power. Like,
Also from the charge power now.
this will be 10 health given to Love by just using his charge power. There was that new constant spoiled, that diamond constant that talks about getting to double your starting health total, and
That's true.
Running Deer can get a lot of work in there.
Running Deer, Pact of Life. Seems like
Yeah.
a deck that could happen.
Yeah. Even with all of that, though, just barely above double his starting health. So maybe it's really difficult to get there. Now, his Gore Feast... Gore Feast isn't that bad here. Vampire King would get 2 blocks.
Right.
That means 6 health would go onto Love. He's got plenty of health to spare. Subterranean Spy would likely kill... Well, and we're going to see it anyway. So there's 9 damage from the Blaze Elemental. And then 7 from the Buccaneer and the Mentalist.
And plus we have lots
And
of card
5.
drawing inspires from attacks, and we've got the card drawing inspire from death. So I still like going for it here and at least trying to knock down some of the health.
This is 38 damage total with 2 alphas. Which is possibly incorrect math, first off. Second off, not lethal. Wow, and just swinging with Spambot and the Blaze Elemental. Wonder if we'll see a second Gore Feast here. And we see the Royal Falconer hitting the board.
Would you have attacked with the Buccaneer there as well?
I feel like there was definitely a spot to swing with the Buccaneer there. Possibly a misclick, possibly just something in his hand was changing how he wanted to play.
Could be. Do see a big Drew's Walker come out on the other side of the field, but it doesn't.
Yeah, no, this is pretty bad for Love at this point. Like, even though he's still in a solid health total position, like, still sitting at 41 after a Gorfy swing with like 6 troops on the board. Not in a great spot here. Reduces the attack of the Royal Falconer. Once again, that Zentos Inquisitor getting some work in. Drew's is, of course, the scary part here, as it will get to swing twice. That being said, not enough health left for CoolGer to really ready the Drews with the -8. Now, Vampire King swings there, leaving Love with not only less blockers, but that means at least 2 extra troops can swing at least semi-safely now. And also he can't double block for 6 health against another Gore Feast. We see Buccaneers, a Buccaneer come out anyway, so I suppose it was irrelevant, but...
We have another Gore Feast. With no murder for Love, we're going to see a lot of damage coming through.
Yeah, and a lot of card draw here as well, I believe.
Man, get hit twice by that Drew's Walker, pretty painful.
I think that Drew's actually changes the math to lethal. Is there 17 in the rest of them? No. It's 3... So there's 10 damage from the Drews, so he needs 17 more. 3, 4, 8... 11, 14. Chooses to leave a Royal Falcon behind.
Yeah, keeping the flying blocker seems good here. Just a little bit short, but man, that is a lot of damage. Puts him real close.
Would have left him on 3 with the full swing there. Which would have put him into Crackling Bolt range.
So we do see the redraw of that Arborian Rootfather that went in earlier.
Interesting. Oh, wow. Wow, that top deck. Ish.
So we see the block, and now we see the extinction. And we see CoolGer refill his hand all the way up to 13 cards.
Yeah, I
Gotta
mean,
love
that's a
Mirror Knight.
lot of cards.
Do you think he's got the last Gore Feast now?
Is the last Gore Feast good enough? Like, I mean, yeah, it's a weird spot, right? Love hangs on, but is there actually like an out here?
Yeah, I think it's pretty tough for Love at this point. Like, he needed the Pact of Pain several turns ago to really get the card advantage and take advantage of being ahead, or a Filgate to stay around and revert all the card draw. Maybe could have helped here as well too.
Yeah,
What do you
Filcate
say now?
before the extinction would have been necessary.
Vampire King is a nice draw. Do someone play it?
Yeah, I mean, and then the Master Moss.
But CoolGer says no thanks. And he plays the Master Moss. Okay, and we do see CoolGer had the spy tunnel, knew exactly what was going on. So Crackling Bolt, that one is aimed at Love's face.
Yeah, no reason to
Another
hold that
Crackling
back.
Bolt. Yep, that's going to be it.
Oh, is it just triple Crackling Bolt? No. Okay.
No triple bolt, but still more than enough. And it looks like Gore Feast is going to take this one down.
Seems like in both games, Love was like one or two cards in his deck missing from coming through into a better position, like ever being able to use pact of uh, his pact of pain more effectively would have been really valuable to him. Trying to get through with just a little bit more damage, or like it just felt like being at 40 health and then losing must be just the saltiest kind of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty brutal. I mean, his deck did most of what it was supposed to do in that second game there, but just not having the Pact of Pain to capitalize on it, and not having the Filcape around to take away the card draw. Like, I feel like a lot of that ended up being, hey, thanks for the extra card draw on my Gorfu swings, and also my Mirror Knight for letting all my troops die. I feel like that was a pretty big part of that game there.
Yeah.